6:30. I'm calling to order the Pickens County Council work session of Monday, November 17, 2025. First up is the invocation and pledge allegiance. Councilman Chris Bowers.
Dear Lord, Heavenly Father, we come to you tonight. Thanks for the opportunity to continue to serve our community. Lord, pray that you be with us this evening as we do the business of the county. Give us wisdom, guidance, discernment, Lord. Pray that you just be with all of our first responders, all of our military members, Lord. Just thank you for all the ways that you've blessed us. In Jesus' name, amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag.
So, Mr. Roper, who's going to present draft?
I'm going to recognize, thank you, Mr. Chairman, thank you, members of council, to recognize Dirk Ishawada as the project manager here at Pickens County. He's put a great deal of work into this, comparing, benchmarking people around us, preparing this document. Also, Assistant Administrator, Finance Director Ralph Carino is here as well. Questions come up there, and I'm going to defer to these two gentlemen as the experts.
Well, good evening. Thank you very much for having me here. So my goal and task was to basically take the current procurement manual that we had and do a comparison to other counties and cities to make sure that we have everything that is necessary to be compliant with local, state, and federal procurement laws and policies. So what I did was, if you notice on the third page, or it says page 2, there is a list of the 25 government agencies that I basically cross-referenced. So what I did was I was looking through all their procurement documentation, and I tried to pull out all the similar items that pertained to Pickens County. Once I had all that done, I tried to kind of massage it so that I took the best of every element that every city/county had to offer, and I compiled it all together to make this complete document. So it took me basically 2.5 months, maybe close to 200 hours to do. It's a lot of reading. It gets a little confusing after a while because the jargon of one city to another county is completely different. And so I had to basically rewrite it all. So I hope that it's as satisfying for you as it was for me. And I know, and I was discussing it with Ralph, it's written in a format where the dollar amounts and certain items need to be approved by council, right? But at least you have a reading material, and it is compliant by state and federal laws that govern what we're supposed to do.
Okay.
And then once I receive your feedback and Ken and Ralph's feedback, it's just a matter of tweaking it and then finalizing it, and then we can adopt it as so.
Ralph, you got anything on that?
No, I've read through it. There'll be little tweaks here and there that we'd like to bring back to council. Nothing major. I've had a chance to review it. Dirk and I have been talking about it, but overall, I'm happy with it. We've had it current one, like you said, for 20 years. It needed to revamp. One thing I will say, and Dirk just talked about, is a lot of governments, and that's why he has it in here, is once a project has been bid out and recommended, it's in here for it to come back to council for your approval. And like I said, that's how most governments do it. One thing we did probably 10, 15 years ago is council changed that, is if it's already approved in the budget, we went through the proper process, we didn't have to bring it back to council for approval, because that just delays the process, getting it back on the agenda. So council had taken that out. We put it in there since it's consistent with other governments, but that may be one thing y'all want to consider, is taking that part out, that y'all have to, in essence, approve it again. Since you've already approved it in the budget itself. That's one thing that I noticed.
And the reason why I did that was, yes, it was not in the Pickens County version that I had, but for complete transparency, all the other entities had it. And I think it's important, just because you approve a $1.2 million project, I think it still behooves us to have you decide and review what the bid actually looked like, what it all entailed, so that you can put your stamp of approval on it, or you may want some changes.
So we left it where y'all will have to come back and approve it. Fine with us.
Does anybody have any questions on this?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, if I may, that last point, I understand what you're saying, but I kind of don't understand what you're saying at the same time. Because if we go through and we say we want X, Y, Z, put it up to bid, we're gonna approve $1.2 million for it. Obviously, if the bid comes back at 1.3 million or 1.21, probably gotta come back and ask for, but if we said, nope, we're good with it, put it out to bid, we approve 1.2 million, what would be the benefit of bringing it back?
Like I said, that's what a lot of governments do. We took it away probably 10, 15 years ago because it was more of the time frame that it took to bring it back to council that in essence rubber stamped it. But that's why we put it in there.
But I
Because
guess that's what I'm asking is other than, are you sure you want to spend this money? Other than that, what are you gaining from it?
I would ask that from council's perspective. Maybe y'all have some insight into the bid itself that y'all heard about, that y'all have questions on. But we didn't want to assume that, like we've always done it, because we have a new council now, over the years since that was approved. We just want to get y'all's input on that and make sure it comes back to y'all if you want to do that. If not, you can strike that out of the ordinance.
Now, Mr. Chairman, if I could, just because I want to argue the complete opposite of what I just said, I feel like that if Mr. Green was 100% right, that we'll say, but we haven't enacted it. I think back to the building of the jail. I think back to there's been several projects. I can think back where council approved them and approved the money for them. And it's like, well, when we're going to put it out the bid, well, I'm just kind of waiting to hear from you guys. So the reason I'm making a deal of this is one way or the other, it needs to be 100% clear that either it needs to come back or no, please go do it, kind of thing. Does that make sense what I'm trying to clarify there?
Mr. Chairman, if I could on that point, because I think that's exactly right. With us in the past, there's always been a little bit of, okay, we're going to have to dance down this road together. And from a staff standpoint, we better meet your expectations. That's a fine thing. That's absolutely fine. But we end up with some of these big ticket items and we come back. We say, this is where we are, are we still good? So I think it's a fruitful conversation for us to have here and then maybe again before third. And to say, what is your expectation? How do you want that to work? Because then we'll have clear guidance, which is what we're really mainly concerned with.
Okay. And I think what we're saying here too, if you don't mind me saying, is here Dirk, correct me if I'm wrong, here we're talking about more about construction type projects. What would happen in the past is we would put in the budget to buy a car. We'd bid it out, it'd come in under budget, but we'd still have to take it back to council. And they're like, why are we approving this? We've already approved for a car in the budget. Why are we having to wait another 4 to 6 weeks for us to approve it again? Let's just move on. So that was the concept of taking that out where we had to bring it back to council.
Do you have a threshold in which you do this and don't do it?
Yeah. Not currently, no. But in here, did you have it, or is it just all inclusive?
It's all inclusive. And again, that was the premise of the way I wrote it, was to leave it open-ended for council to make that decision.
So that's one issue we have to do. Okay.
So, when you're coming and asking us for approval, is that for a particular dollar amount? Is that post bids? Are you coming to us and say, hey, this is the bid that we want to go
This
with?
is what we want to recommend,
So
yes.
we want to recommend it. Once we approve it, that would be it.
Yeah, y'all may have questions, how many bids did we receive? Who bid on it? Things like that. We want to be transparent.
Well, I think
we
that
have all that information. Be glad
Well, like
to
the
give
radio
that.
system, we consider two bids. They're both brought to us. They're very different. Well, there were 10, yeah, it started with a bunch,
Oh, on the radio.
but we had 2 finalists, and it was like, okay, council, which do you choose?
That's right.
So that it's not always the final bid.
Take that, particularly with the construction stuff, it's like, okay, we've got this much money. Start getting bids. The approval thing, the way I'm looking at it, I think it's a good idea. You come back and say, okay, these folks can do this, this, this for that amount of money. These folks can only do this, this, this. It's not really, we're approving the funds, but we're not approving the project.
You know, I think that's
I
where we're
like
going
that.
down two things. Do we really want to get into approving the car? You know,
But it has to be a threshold.
right.
On the threshold.
And that's what I was gonna say. Are we looking at just construction projects?
Right.
So why don't we say that's issue number one? I feel there needs to be a threshold.
First of all, because I think a timeline makes sense. One concern I have, especially the way this council is elected, is you can get 4 new people elected. Like, we could approve a $3 million project, and then you change 4 people in the council. Do those 4 people still want to approve that $3 million contract?
Or do you start all over
Or do
again?
you start the whole thing all over again?
You're
So I
right.
would also like some guardrail. I mean, there's a reason that people elected 4 new people. Maybe they hated the fact that they approved that original $3 million. I mean, like, well, yeah, there we go.
Well, the whole,
They may
So-
approve it on December and we.
Right, yeah, I mean, it's tricky, so I do think that thresholds make sense, but I almost think timelines make sense as well, or you could just get caught up.
You
when
can.
this happens.
And that's what happened in the past. It got caught up and, well, it got approved on, you know, whatever, November 29th. It's too late to put on the agenda, so now we gotta wait until January to get it on, the agenda for council to approve the truck.
Okay, so why don't we
So that's what you
come up
may
with
run
a
into. like you said.
practical threshold?
Okay.
Just come up with a practical threshold.
And the other thing I recommended y'all think about this, 2 examples come immediately to mind, Greenville County, Coney County. Just look at their minutes. Not their minutes, you don't even have to look at their minutes, look at their agendas. You'll see the granular level that different, this balance is up to y'all.
Yeah.
But, Coney County, for example, it's more in the backpack lower than both.
Yeah.
And so you need to look at that and decide where y'all are comfortable. I think thresholds will bring you back.
Okay. Any other questions on this?
On the whole procurement code?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, if I may say one more thing. Also, what I made sure that I included was the whole process needs to be streamlined as well. So if a department figures like they need to have medic 1, so like, for example, Chief Gibson, they need to do some back history work prior to presentation to council. So they should already have kind of the estimate of what it's gonna cost and what all that takes into play, so that when you agree or approve that dollar figure, as a basic premise, your clock starts at that point. So the entire process should shorten in duration overall.
Yeah, gotta do more planning. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I have a question. So section 3.1 is the code of ethics. Great. It has no gifts, favors, or gratuities may be accepted from current and prospective vendors. We currently go to a conference where vendors take staff. I know vendors come here and periodically do stuff like that. Is that going to stop this, or is there?
Well, we will, you raise a good point. The State Government Ethics and Accountability Reform Act, I don't remember the year, it'd be impressive if I remember the year, it doesn't. But I don't remember the year. It sets a threshold.
$25.
$25.
And it's something that's supplied to, a group of people at a seminar. That's different analysis than if they come to you and say, hey, would you buy this bottle of really expensive whiskey or something? Yeah, that's a gift. But if it's, hey, this seminar, the dinner is sponsored by whoever insurance, that's a different analysis. So we probably need to put a little more definition in there to reference the state law.
Yeah, I think the state will come. Let's do a class, like you said, how big a class? Any other?
Yeah. Section 4.5 says the county may convene a procurement review committee for complex or high-risk procurements. I'm just wondering what this is. Have we had one of these before?
I don't think the county of Pickens has.
Okay.
In the city where I came from, we did. There are other governing bodies that do so as well. It's kind of the prerequisite prior to coming to council.
Yeah, this sounds a good idea. I just didn't like, for the 911 building, we didn't have a group of people who were, we had a general group of people, but it wasn't a committee that was like.
Correct. And the way I was trained was there has to be accountability and there has to be transparency. Mm-hmm. And sometimes it involves multiple layers.
Okay, so it's be a new process.
Again, that's based on the approval of council and obviously Ken and everyone else.
You probably already unofficially had this committee, right?
I'm sorry?
You probably already have this committee, it's just not an organized committee. I mean, you will be talking to these people already.
Yeah, but it's more written.
That's it.
Right, yeah.
Without board involving, you can just take a look.
This is just a rough draft.
Right, but this is amazing, I'm just,
I'm just let me think of one thing that I think would be helpful. You have these different thresholds throughout. It'd be nice to have a little list of them, just to see what we have to actually have to make decisions.
I don't have that.
But Chief,
It's all inside. I would have to put out,
Yeah.
read a separate.
We can come back with some others.
I know it's like table.
Because we have got 3
section 5.
readings.
Yeah,
Yeah.
section 5 is pretty.
Yeah.
I think that one, I mean,
I think
I
I'll
see your point. I would just say, because so somebody's looking at something for liability, right? So that's like the risk management. You probably, I wouldn't say everything you build, but most everything you build, probably want somebody, lawyer to look at, or somebody to look at it and say, that knife sticking out of the wall, there's a problem, Okay. I don't know, is that what risk managers do?
Well, like I said, we want to get y'all a draft. We want to just put certain values out there because we have to do 3 readings. I think y'all's goal was to have this
So that's
done by.
another, so that's another. That would be stage next year. Okay, but I actually have a couple questions. You want?
Yeah, and
Scott, go first.
I think I just got an answer.
Okay, so in our package, it says $100,000 is your main threshold, but when you look at section 5, the draft seems to say 50,000. Is that correct?
page 20.
Yeah, and this
Yeah.
section 2 right here.
Yeah, you'll have to excuse me because, like I said, writing and rewriting, multiple writings.
So
Sometimes the dollar amounts get a little.
So it would either be, so the packet has 100,000, it says 50. So we have to determine which one.
Well,
Okay, now what are the factors to determine that? Can you just tell us? Just tell us the factors. Which threshold are we actually doing on page 5? Because it looks like you start formal bidding at 50,000.
again, this is what the majority of government agencies are doing. This is what their dollar amounts are.
Okay.
Again, I need your
That's what
professional
I mean. I'm
input.
just saying, just tell us what, as we make that decision, what are we doing?
From what I understand, the difference is on the formal sealed bidding, that's for any type of thing, cars, whatever it may be. And then over on section 2 on the 100,000, if I'm looking at the same thing you're looking at, that's talking about construction contracts. That's what I'm.
Correct.
Right.
Okay, so they're different.
Right, yeah, so formal sealed bids, if we get 3 quotes for a car that's less than 50,000, we don't have to do a sealed bid. But if it's above that, we have to put out sealed bids. Whereas on the other page, or on the summary page, it's got $100,000, but that relates to construction.
Okay, so
That's
this
on the
is,
summary. They're trying to do a summary of the highlights of stuff.
okay, this is, so first, the 50,000 is all assets
Yes.
that are not construction. Okay, I didn't get that. Okay, my next question is, okay, so if something was, let's say it's a $70,000 truck, roll-off truck, 200,000. That's gonna go through what? You gotta publicly advertise that?
Yes.
Sealed
That's correct.
bids, formal, we need to.
Technically, yes.
I think so. It's more transparent. It's open competitive bids for everybody. Yeah, 50 is a good number, I think. Stuff like that.
Okay, so here's my second question. Where does it say for any projects, I guess maybe construction project, greater than X in cost, an in-house estimate has to first be drawn up? How do you go about getting that estimate? This would be something Council Holloway would ask about. Now, where do I see that in people?
So for in-house,
Yeah,
yeah, it would be 15. So that would be 3.6.
3.6?
Yeah.
3.6, tell me what the operative word is.
So basically, again, as I had mentioned prior to council here. Each department that is looking for a specific need, they need to have some sort of responsibility as far as looking into and gathering information for that particular need. And they need to do a little bit of homework and a little bit of work themselves to try to get a quote, to look and find out competitors, vendors, and everything.
So let's say for medical law,
Correct.
before we put it out to bid, where does it say in this document? 3.6?
3.6, correct.
Dale, what do you think? Is that enough?
Put another bullet, there's, 4 bullet points, you can put a 5th bullet point.
Sure, budget alignment, I see which of the have money. Schedule formal solicitations in that.
Well, the way other entities have done it is,
The biggest issue we had is that we would go into the bidding process. We really had no idea what it would cost. And I'm not saying for the $40,000 truck, I'm worried about the $12 million building.
correct. But again, it all comes down to somebody needs to do some work ahead of time to try to find out exactly what the needs are and who the potential vendors are. And if it's a construction, you could use, for example, like the cost estimator sheet that I generated, and we could kind of preemptively come up with a ballpark dollar figure.
Yeah, I think that needs to be clearer, don't you think?
We could have that as a bullet point.
Definitely I would pull in the price indicator there with this as well. And
We'll make that more clear. in there.
Yeah, didn't you say there were all these, well, I don't know, you can't tell them the method, but Marshall and Swift calculator, things like that. I don't know if you want to mandate that, but you surely have to come up with maybe projects bigger than that. You have to get a detailed cost estimate.
Mhm.
Something like that. That's what I'm.
Well, again, in the city where I came from, we had to justify everything, whether it was a lawnmower or a vehicle, a building, anything and everything. We had to have documentation for all of it, or council would not see it. Period. They wanted to see that you want it, you need to do your homework, and you need to make sure.
Sure, a lot of times we just throw this stuff to an architect. These numbers are real top. So that's what we're trying to change.
Right, and that's why I made a note. We need to come up officially and kind of use as an estimate what Dirk came up with. We talked about it on the before we even started.
Mr. Chairman, the language in the summary that you have, I think it's more specific than the language in the document.
Where's that summary?
See,
Oh, yeah, the summary, okay.
I think we can fine tune that.
Okay, one other. When you're looking at section 5, it says source select, is construction manager at risk and option. Does it look to me like, am I correct in saying design, bid, build is one option? Bid, build is another?
Well, it depends on which way we'd like to go out. I mean, if we're looking just for like a lowest bid, that's one version, which was an
Well, let's say,
IFB.
for example, you have a project where you have the specification.
Mhm.
They don't have to provide specification. You give them the specification. That would be, that's I guess a bid build design. Right? You already have a bid build, yeah, sourcing. Okay, you already have it. Now, you generally have an idea what you want to do, but you don't have the details on how. So they're really giving you a design, and then they're giving you a price.
Correct.
Okay, so I see those two methods in here. Now, the construction manager at risk is that you just hire a contractor. He just does the whole thing and gives you a price. Is that in here? Remember, Ken, we talked
It
about
doesn't
that?
say that specifically,
Correct.
but it could. It certainly could.
Do you remember talking about that?
We did. No, we did. We talked about the 3 methods.
I only see 2.
Right. I think we could probably make that more specific, that
And-
any of these 3 are available.
And that
under
option would be,
5.2.
and that would be an option for you.
Right.
That would give you more flexibility.
Right.
So you could, in that case, you could just avoid the bid process.
Yeah.
If you come and say, here's an in-house estimate. We've done work with this guy before. He built X, Y, and Z. We think the cost is. Why don't we just hire this, the design and just do it? I mean, when we're on the school board, we actually built some buildings with just one construction manager.
That's
So-
a
some of it went
lot
through the-
more than that than it used to be. It's the way a lot of.
Yeah, it has changed over the years, but we also want to make sure.
I would
it's
talk to
open.
Dwayne about that, try to get that working.
You talking about using our guys, talking about hiring?
No, so for example, instead of having a bid process, sometimes it works better to just hire somebody that has expertise in the field. They've done it before. You agree on a price. He tells you 41 million. You say no. We think you should go for 39. We're out for this. We negotiate a price with them. It's not a bid process.
Do like an RFQ, you get the qualifications.
I would be cautious.
No, I'm not saying do it that way. We built $40 million building. How about this? No, I guess it was. There was some cases when we did that. Because we knew the cost of it. Both we knew what stuff cost. And we would go out and just say, this is what we want, give the specifications, and they would negotiate the price. I'm not saying you do that every time, but you may, in some cases, you may want to do that.
So you're saying you want us to at least have the option?
Yeah.
We just don't want perception to be that we're always going with, the same two.
Yes.
Well, you won't. I mean,
That's where I was
you're not gonna build, but sometimes it's so hard to get bids, or it's hard to get good bids, and you just have someone that you work with.
And how,
I'm telling you,
It is changed like that.
It happens.
Yeah.
It happens. The school district did it a lot. They probably still do it to this day. I'm sure a lot of people do. But Dwayne talked about it at length. But always being tied to the bid process. You just want to be able to give you that option. If we don't like it, the council can say no. Put out the bid.
Yeah, there's governments that do that. I think the only time we've done it before was with the Easley Library. Council made an exception for design bid. Before that, it wasn't in there. But it is becoming more popular at these times.
That's what I'm saying. You don't want them to have that option at all.
It's how it's used, and it's a trust. It's a trust thing.
You can take the impression.
how do you select that person or company? Because you still need to go through a vetting process to get that
There may
person.
just be a handful of people that just do that work.
You do a request,
You do
Or
an
that
RFQ.
available,
That's right.
available for that time.
You do an RFQ to
part of
begin
what
with.
they've got to present is value proposition. And you select based on those factors. Then you say, okay, this is what we're willing to pay. I was talking to Ms. Fowler about that, because we saw a presentation at the last conference. I don't remember the county. This is literally how they did it.
Yeah.
So a lot of times you can put out RFQ, request for qualifications for like architect or engineering firms. You select them based on their qualifications. And then if you have a project come up, then you have the option possibly to do the design build part of it, because you have a relationship with them. You've already tested them through the RFQ and if they're qualified. Because, some may be just qualified to do a certain, like schools, that's all they do. They know nothing about fire stations. So you don't want to give it to someone like that, but you go ahead and pre-qualify through the RFQ process. So it can be done that way. You just don't want to always go to that same vendor, at least give the perception that you're going to the same vendor.
I'm more in favor of this. Back in the day, I've been working. It's enterprise, to other people, enterprise, like you said, we weren't qualified to do like the easy branch of the library, but it's good working for cities branches.
Residential,
Because,
commercial.
well, yeah,
That's what I mean.
let's do big jobs like
I mean, it is a level of trust.
I think it's just better. That's gonna, more than one.
I do.
I would explain process. You present that as a
Correct.
then see if you come up with some language that will make it.
And that's
And it
why,
may be that we
that's why
have that
there's
as an
all these
option, but
different
first year.
I mean, all this has to be approved by council. Ultimately, you're gonna come, if it's a big project, you gotta come back to us. What we chose.
Right.
We'll just say, no, bid it out.
Yeah, or be preemptive and say we just want to design build.
Anybody else have any other questions? I still have a question. Okay, section 8 is your P card or department purchasing rules. How did you streamline that process?
go ahead.
What section?
That's second, page 30.
I think what we basically did on that is, we had a separate policy manual procedure that we've had for 22 years now. I think it is. We started in the early 2000s. And we just wanted to incorporate that into the purchasing ordinance was the gist of that. I think the limits, we may go back and adjust the limits, but in the end, it's up to the procurement director to select what level of single transactions they have and overall monthly transactions. I still do that now. We kind of put in a minimum of $500 and $1,500, but there's allowance in there because some people need more money.
So
Some
each
people do.
department has a card.
No, if we want to talk about that, it's really not a set rule. We try not to give out a lot of P cards because of potential theft that can go along with that. Off the top of my head, I would say out of 800 employees, we have about 25 to 30 P cards. And that's mainly for your building codes, certain department heads. It's a justification basis.
Building maintenance, you mean, not building.
Building maintenance, excuse me, yeah. So it's really, they have to justify it to me as the administrator if they need one.
We
We
run
have-
really lean on who has P cards for an organization. That's something we've always-
Okay.
And then you
Right.
and then you monitor those as purchases are made.
Yeah, so what happens, they go out and use it, then at the end of the month, they have to do the reconciliation within our system. Down transactions, individual transactions, are imported in our system, they have to do the reconciliation. They have to scan the receipts, put them in our system. We've been doing that for at least, say, like I said, 15, 20 years. So I
keep
feel good
getting
about
dinged.
that.
I'll report myself to you, because I keep getting dinged by him. It's because of parking garages. They don't give you the receipt. The gate's about to close, you have to drive out. So that, but we're very specific about that, and that's.
Well, I send out a lot of
Policy
articles to department heads that have P cards about all the theft that's going on around, anywhere, not just Pickens, but everywhere. And this happened in Pickens County, with the city. We'll go back. I do check, spot check it. It's up to the department head to make sure they're accounted for the P cards.
Okay, in the outline, it says the county may use a pre-qualified pool of local contractors. Now, where does that say that? How does that mechanism work? Where do I see it?
Oh, that one. Yeah, hold on. Page 14.
And we appreciate y'all's questions. This is
Yeah.
what we want feedback.
I read it, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great. Because it's easy for us to see it, but it's hard to audit ourselves.
Yeah, page 14, the delegation of procurement authority. I'm sorry, is that what your question was?
Well, basically, the IDCs, when you talked about having a list of contractors that the administration, I guess, construction will make, or actually building operations would make. They could just hire these people directly and have a list of them, rather than have to go through this long process.
For small projects where you pre-qualify.
Yeah,
Correct.
the thought process on that, the same thing we've done for engineering services for roads and then the C fund. We can do that as far as putting it out, for, like I said, request for qualifications. And then we already have a pre-list of, say, 10 electrical firms or 10 HVAC firms that we can choose from. And each time we don't have to go out there.
So what you do is you just have an RFQ and then you just solicit these people?
That's what we
Now, what
do.
does that say that, what is it, like, I know I saw it.
Like I said, we're doing that. We've already done that.
Page 20.
Yeah, this is, we get professional people first, not professional. Is that where it says?
Well, we used to get, calls would be, if you got established in somebody's system and you were qualified, and then you would get an email, we got this project coming up, with scope of work.
I actually,
How we do now.
Well, kind of, it's not official right now, and that's where we want to get more official. We do that for, like I said before, for engineering services. We're waiting to award that bid, and we may select 5 of them, 10 of them. But we have, I think, 28 submissions on one of them that we did back in July. And then Rodney in engineering or public works, he'll select it through a matrix of qualifications, and then we can reach out to those. We also did that for architectural services. We just recently did that. So we can go to them because they've already been pre-qualified.
okay, so I think.
So we can bring that down to another level and bring it to, more of the plumbers, electricians, whoever it may be. And that's one thing I've talked to the building maintenance
I think
superintendent.
it's page 28. Non-professional services competitive selection. Is that where it's at?
I remember 25 years ago, Tommy would say, you gotta get a price on blah, 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 you don't wanna give a price.
So is that what so let's say you have a $45,000 grading project.
And it's informal bidding.
Now, how are you going to hire that person? Where in the book do you look?
Well, basically, it states that you'd have to get 3 quotes. So the department would actually have to go out and reach out to certain vendors and say, can you give us a price for, here's a job, the scope, and give me a price on it, and you have to have 3 of them.
Okay, so you're not gonna have a list of people that you're just gonna go to, or you just,
Well-
each time you're gonna have a free quote?
No, we could still do that. We still.
Now, where does it say that? That's what I would say. I see, here's the example, $45,000, you're gonna tear down the old Ben Trotter building in the thing next to it. $45,000, I just made up.
Right, sure.
Okay, and how are you going to get that done using this?
So based on what other entities have done, is they don't have a pool. They go out to bid.
We wanted to.
I understand, then I have to rewrite it in that.
I think so.
So to answer your question,
I think in terms of when y'all were talking about streamlining this, exactly what you're talking about. And you were also talking about having a group of local people. The example I would use here, gentlemen, is when we do carpet. You know, we're not trying to keep that carpet business away from anybody, but we have one person that does it quickly on time, you know, and we've used them.
Well, this thing, you gotta get 3 quotes.
Yeah, well, and you still have to do it depending on the amount, but we just know they're gonna do it because they're gonna end up being way lower. And we built that over time. That's what you're talking about. What I would envision is you do a request for qualifications for that pool.
That's what I'm
And then
saying.
we know who we go to. Now, does it say that specifically in here? No, and I think it probably needs to reflect what y'all really want.
Yeah, because like I said, I look at this is why I'm asking these detailed questions. When I look at, let's see, the outline, construction contracts below 100,000. For contracts under 100,000 in the county, they use a pre-qualified pool of local contractors. Now, where is that in?
Right.
It's not in.
It's in the summary.
It's in the summary, but
Well, that's what I'm saying. In some cases, the summary's got better language. It's very broad in the bigger document. Gives us the leeway to do that, but y'all want to know specifically. And I think that's valid. That's
isn't
good
that
feedback.
something we talked about?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you fighting me on it. I'm not trying to suggest that.
Okay.
But I mean, you've been working with the same carpet company for 2 years. What harm would it be to go through this process and get 3 bids and confirm, okay, yeah, they were the cheapest, great.
Well, actually, we did that for the Garden Street project.
Yeah, we
We
still
got
do.
3 quotes because we were assuming we estimated to be under 20,000. So we got 3 quotes. One came under 20, the other 2 came in just above 20.
Sounds like a good process. Like, understand
I
the
just
idea.
think that's smart.
Yeah,
Sales.
you never know, and there's new companies, new small businesses opening every day. Like, I understand the concept of a pool when you're talking about like, hey, there's a roof leaking, we need to call somebody right now, and we can't handle it. I can see that, and especially if you've done the RFQ, but I don't think it's bad to shed some sunlight on this process of who we're hiring. That's what the document is all about.
I think I see it somewhere between what y'all are saying. I think this is what y'all intend. You don't want us to establish a franchise. This is the local carpet company that we always use, right? You don't want that, because that's not good for anybody. But what you do want is for us to occasionally say, hey, world, do you want to be on our list? Do you want to be on our list that we call and get 3 quotes from? Do you want
What I was.
Right. And that I think is the way that you're envisioning this working, is that we've got a go-to list of people, and then we get the cheapest one of 3 quotes if we're required.
Yeah, the way I envisioned it was the way that Dwayne explained it. Clemson University. They got a whole list of people. If it's good enough for them, it should be good enough.
But it
I got
doesn't-
news for you. I don't get 3 bids on every time I buy car. I just don't. I mean, because you're moving quickly.
You're using your money,
You're
we're
using
using the
taxpayer
taxpayers'
money.
money.
See, I look at, I mean, Chuck, so you're saying what Clemson University does is wrong?
Clemson's is so much a huge, bigger scope. They have software that manages the number of vendors that have done RFQ that are hundreds, if not thousands of people, like who meet a lot of their qualifications. I don't think we're gonna be near that.
It's $100 million operation. It's pretty big. I mean, like I said, I think they should have the flexibility to have a list of contractors that they believe are reasonable, so that they can move quickly and get them done, rather than having to go out. I mean, if I went to get, for example, my little business, if I went to get 3 estimates on a roof, it would take me 2 months to get it, because half the people don't show up. I mean, I got a guy that does great work, and he's very quick, and he's fast, and he gives me a good price. It's just,
I think from our side-
sometimes you just can't get people to give you estimates all the time. I do it all the time, I'm telling you, now, on a scale, I don't do
I
it.
got 3 quotes.
I mean, you could put a time frame, right? Say 2 weeks. You gotta get back to me in 2 weeks. If you don't get back with me, you only got one bid, there you go.
I think doing this for 32 years, being in local government, and I talked to Ken about this, sometimes it comes down to perception, and how it looks from the outside versus how we feel like we're doing it. We feel like we're doing it the right way. But the perception is, oh, they're going to that same contractor. It's quote the good old boy system, because you're using the same one or something. That's what we don't want to
And
do.
as
So
a
there's a
contractor, I
pro,
can tell you that feeling's out there. So
yeah. So there's pros and cons.
Not
of
with
it.
us, but
Chairman's looking at it from an efficiency standpoint. And hey, let's just go with this person that we've vetted before. But then on the public side, oh, they're just going to give it that same vendor, and so why should I even, bid on stuff? And that's what it's come down to, is when we try to get quotes, it's like, you're just going to go with a low bid. And that's not how we do business. We do quality stuff. So there's like Kim said, y'all are saying the same thing, and you're saying valid points. It's just, to me, it's perception.
So that's an important question. When we consider what bid that we're going to accept, we do also consider quality of work, right? And quality of materials, or we just go
We can spec
strictly,
that.
we just go strictly least.
But we try to put that in our specs, like a vehicle or something like that. We try to, if we just do a bid, we try to put all the specs in there that we want. And then as long as they meet those specs, then we can go with them. But, we just have to define that. But a construction project, hopefully someone is doing it for you. It's writing the specs for you. They put things like that. Yeah, sometimes you get paid, you get what you pay for.
Well, one of the issues we have currently is we're working with GMC for Medic One. And we have, McMillan is doing the project in the back for the safety facility. And McMillan found out that we're using GMC for the Medic design concept. And they were like, why didn't you ask us? We would have given you a price. Why did you pick them? And I told them that they're in our pool of architects. And you're like, well, that's fine, but we should still be able to be in that discussion so that we could say, you know what, we can design this cheaper. And that's a legal thing, especially when you're dealing with large projects of, $1 million or whatever, 2 million for Medic One. McMillan feels like they should have been notified that
the bigger contract, the more that's going to be an issue. I think what Chairman's describing there is this small project. We just said, like, let's get this done next week, right? And we're trying to do some things to help with that too. Coming up next month, we're going to have, I think for the first time, as long as I can remember, we're having small businesses invited in to teach them how our procurement process can work. So we're going to try to build more local understanding of how you can get county jobs. But in terms of having the list ahead of time, I think it's a balance. I mean, obviously, we're going to do
like I said, I'm not sure what we want. I mean, that's what we talked about. So for contracts under 100,000, the county may use a pre-qualified pool of local contractors. Do we want that in here or not? I mean, I think we should. How do the rest of you feel about it? It's something that Dwayne Green talked about. Help substantial.
ideally, what my vision of this was county to be, we advertise whatever for contractors for jobs. This, you wanna do work for us, you gotta this. Then you open it up for bids, whatever job, or just if you're not even bidding anything, hey, do you wanna do work for us? Apply. If you meet the criteria, okay, you'll be considered. Then when we do put things out for bid, make sure everybody knows we're putting it out for bid. Now, what's the best way to do that? I don't know.
I'll be glad to talk on that, because I think you brought that up at the council meeting. How do we do this? So with our software, we've had it for 25 to 30 years. I've worked with them a long time. We have a bid management module. So I won't go into the details and bore you, but there is a way for them to be notified based on projects that we bid out if they're a vendor with us. And it's basically the commodity code we select, whether it's electrical work or something, and they've signed up to be notified of that type of work. And when we put the bid out there, the system automatically sends them an email saying, hey, there's a bid out there, go to our website. And then you can get the bid specs and then submit a bid online.
That's part of what the public education's got.
Yeah, I was gonna say, that's what Dark's gonna.
Exactly what I was talking about.
Yeah, it's just like for the, was it the architect of the engineering? We did that all electronically through our system. We've been using it a while, but we did it more formal this time where it could only be submitted electronically. And they were all notified either through SCIBO, South Carolina Business Opportunities, Greenville News, or through our software system that notified them. And I think we got over 20 back. So they're being notified. Yeah, they're being notified.
And that really,
And we
that
tell,
is a pool of people, but it's not a pool of people. I mean, it's just.
well, when people call in, we tell them, register as a vendor, select the commodity codes that you want to be notified on. You know, we could put literally 50,000 out there, depending on what you want. We do about 500, just general categories. We say select all of them. You may be a construction company, but if you want to know when we're bidding out, you know, office supplies, that's not your thing, then just ignore it. So we do have electronic system that handles all of that.
I think that we're addressing the pool of people.
Yeah, they just need to register with us and select the things that they're interested in being notified of. They get an electronic email, electronic email, help them bid on this project if they want to.
Mr. Chairman, if it helps, because I do think that there's a balance to be struck here, but you know, we have different understandings of the level of what you're describing Clemson's. I know Clemson would sit down with us once a month or contact, wanting to talk about it. Let's get together with them in the next couple of weeks and talk about their project, you know, the way they do it. See if it's something that we think we should bring back to y'all and see if there's votes for it.
Yeah, I'm just trying to give you more flexibility.
No, I see that, absolutely.
Yeah, we see both sides. I understand what you're saying. I understand what other members of
I
council
want to
are saying.
understand their system from their side.
Okay. So, for example, let's say if you did the 911 call center, again, would this procurement code would we be doing it differently, or would we have more options in which to source that project or not? The same thing as it was.
We have more options.
What's the extra option?
The way the procurement code is now, basically, you could come to the council and ask that we do a design build. There's that option in the existing procurement code. Or we can just do the design, bid, build. Those are the only two ways you can do it. So what you end up doing is always the bid out the architectural, get it designed, put that design out bid. What you're describing is, and what this allows in the broader sense, is to the construction manager, risk, and those sort of things.
Hey, you said we got our best bid was 12.1 million. You go to a construction manager and say, do for better. What are you gonna change?
We don't have that tool right.
You should. See, that's what I would see. That's what I do. I mean, I rent $400 below the market because I squeeze the heck out of everybody, and because I have the ability to do that. I pass the savings on. So I mean, I got a bid for 12.1 million. I go to Trell and say, hey, give me a price on this.
We got
And he tells me 11.5. I take the job.
I put some safeguards on that. It'll undermine the bidding process. People start.
We'll maybe get
blaming their bids.
we'll maybe get people aggressing more bit aggressing that.
I know what you're trying to say.
No, there's another option. I mean, that's the whole point. We know what things cost going in. We know what things are supposed to cost. We're going to be in a better position when the bids come. Or if we have an opportunity and we're not tied to these bids, that we can go somewhere else. I mean, that's the way I look at it. How do I get a lower price? And I want all these options to do it. That's all I'm in. It's not like I'm trying to hide my friend. I don't even know these people. You know, just like I said, squeezing everybody I can to get a little price. But I want options to do it. And I you know, you guys don't seem like you got those options. That's all I'm asking. That's all I'm trying to make them.
No, and this is what we wanted, a lot of feedback from you guys formally. Tell us what y'all's thoughts are and everything. We can take this back and tweak it and come back to y'all again at second reading.
Does anybody else have any other questions?
It's a lot of hours of work.
Yeah.
It is a tremendous job. I tasked them with this project. You can tell he did a lot of research into it.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. We're good. Thank you very much. Next up is going to be item 2B. It's going to be employees and county councilors conversations as it relates to the employee handbook and council rule 3.5, probably more 3.5. So I'd like tonight to vote on a draft, or at least something for the December 1st meeting. Councilors Lang and Holloway, this was a goal of yours, so what do you got for us?
Of course, we brought this up as one of the goals, and as elected officials of the county, one aspect of our job is basically to come up with good and well-informed information to aid us in making policy for the county. While, like I say, I truly appreciate the information shared with us on multiple issues from the administration, I also think it's important to hear a perspective from the employees themselves. I think it adds a level of clarity to our understanding of the needs of the county. And I see where it could be a positive aspect. And I guess going back to our previous meeting that we had, it had come to my attention that there was a great reluctance of any employee speaking to county council. Even the fear of reprisal or some type of retribution. And my concern, if that was a true scenario, we need to work on that culture and just have a more open, friendly exchange. And I think it would be better for us in making decisions and so forth, and probably more healthy on the employees' end of it as well, if we could rectify that situation.
Okay, Council Lang, what do you got?
For me, I think just employees being able to address their representative on the council should never be in question. I mean, obviously, there's things that we should not and will not get involved in, personnel issues. And it's none of our business. We already know by state law we can't tell them what to do. We can't tell them how to do their job. You know, but my big concern is Sir Holloway touched on it already, is the fear factor coming to me as their representative on the council. And I've experienced it already. I'm not a counselor a year yet, and I've already experienced county employees that are in my precinct and district that are afraid to talk to me about things because they think they're going to get in trouble. And just we just can't have that. I mean, we just can't. You know, 100%, it can be abused, but it's incumbent on me as a councilman on this council to follow what the state law says. Period. I can't overstep my bounds. Right? And so I feel like that we're not even afforded the ability to even follow the law, right? Because again, people are scared to come talk. You know, it doesn't give me the opportunity to say, I can't talk to you about that. You need to go through your chain of command. Or you need to go talk to HR or whatever. Yeah. It doesn't even give me that opportunity because they're scared to even come talk. And so that's a big concern for me. And we talked about it.
That's right.
But you want them to come talk to you so you can tell them that you're not allowed to talk.
That's not what I'm trying to say. I don't know how you got that.
Sorry, well, you just said they can't even talk to me so that I can tell them you're not allowed to talk to me, you need to go to the attorney or something. I can't even do that because they're too scared to talk.
About anything. It's about anything. My thing is I have to follow what the law says. So if they do come to me out of bounds, that it's my responsibility to say you I can't advise you. Right? That's just one little part of it. They should be able to come to me if there's whatever, something, an improvement they want to make in their workspace or whatever. They should be able to come and talk to me about that and say, well, ask me my opinion of it. Right? There's a whole gamut of conversation you can have with an employee. That was just one specific thing, right? Personnel issue, obviously we can't do that because state law says that. Right? So, but it's the fear factor that really concerns me. I mean, it really does.
Mr. Roper, what's your response to all that?
Well, I'll just be frank about this, and I really appreciate the spirit of the conversations all from both when we talked about this ahead of now and now, because it's a sensitive thing. As a side note, I can tell you that when I was hired as the county attorney, and I think this was in late 2003, early 2004, the first big thing I was asked to work on was this issue. Because it was an issue then between that administrator and that council. And Ralph and I have talked about this, how there's a life cycle to it. And I don't mean to make light of it. And what I'm saying is, I'm smiling, but what I'm really trying to say is these are human problems that we are having. These are normal human problems in a situation where things are described with boundaries that might not always be what we want. You know, you want to be in these conversations not because you want to do ill, right? You want to do good. So I appreciate that, and I just want to tell you that it's not unique. These things come up, and it's an old adage I've heard at the South Carolina Association of Counties that every county administrator wants to be county council, and every county council wants to be the county administrator. And that's probably making it too simplistic. Yeah. But what I would say is that really, with that having been said, what really frustrates me about it is that idea that people are afraid. It's certainly not a environment I want to build or to encourage, is where county employees feel afraid. And so that part of what you're telling me, I have to believe that you're being earnest and honest, because you always seem to be. It frustrates me.
I've heard the same thing.
Yeah, it frustrates me. So, because I do not want people to feel that way.
And they are.
Yeah. And so I don't know what I've said all along about it is one of the great things about our community is the way that we're close knit. And they're going to run into you in the grocery store. They're going to run into you at church group. They're going to, and they're going to talk shop. That's just reality, right? The only thing I would ask in this situation, and you know, I want you all to set the rules the way you all want. Honestly do. And to where you feel comfortable. The only thing I would ask is basically, you're dealing with an employee, ask, don't task is a good shorthand to use. You know, ask, don't task. And keep me in the loop of these conversations so that I know where things are going. Because I do have the responsibility ultimately of directing day-to-day operations. And if I'm not able to do that, then I'm hamstrung by that.
I mean, for me, if I have in light of that, you know, if I had an employee come up to me and say, hey, I think it's really cool if we did this, you know, you're the first person I'm going to come to. I mean, hey, this is a great idea. I think it is. Let's check it out and see what we can do. 100%, I agree with that.
Anybody else want to answer?
I think all of us are professional enough and we understand all. You can tell the difference between sour grapes, hot store, somebody that's got a legitimate concern. We all know we cannot direct any employee at all. But I'm willing to listen if somebody's got a problem. I have had more than one employee contact me over the last 3 years and say, please, please, please don't tell my name to prove. Happened more times than I wish it ever. It should never happen. It does. It still does. But you don't want to create a situation where yeah. But there needs to be an avenue if somebody's got a problem. I've had people that aren't in my district. This is going on. I think you need to know. Before this happened. Well, and you know, a lot of things I bring later on to you.
That's right.
Without giving anybody's name or anything. It's like, hey, what about this? I think we're all professional enough to do that. It bothers me too. The feeling is, talk to you guys, it happened in this building. Keep me out here talking. And I'll be honest, I will be 100% honest. I have told somebody says something, don't come see me. Don't come. Different. I'm sure go around trying to cause problems with employees. I think we're all smart enough. You can stop. You can end that. That's just the way I look at it. You know, Tom?
Yeah, I just need some clarification. Nowhere in here do I see that if one of your constituents walk up to you, try to have a conversation with you, that you can't listen to the constituent. I really don't see that at all. Which is something that I'm kind of seeking clarification on. My second point would be, if you think changing this rule is going to take the fear of retribution away from anybody, that's just an asinine thought. If anything, I think it would make it worse. And then number three, where it really, really gets hinky and hairy, I completely agree with the thought process of council being involved, or council not being involved. If I want to change this rule, where it gets really, really hinky is if Chris says, well, if it were me, this is what I would do.
You gotta be careful about that.
But how often does someone come to you with a problem and you want to fix it? We're all fixers, or we wouldn't be sitting here at this table, on a Monday night. Now, not only is Chris giving direction, but Chris is not acting collectively. It takes a vote of council for council to do. You have zero power. Chairman Seda, you have zero power. You set the agenda, you run the meetings. You have zero power outside of that. It takes four of us to do anything, right? And I think that is the piece that it's a double-edged sword a little bit, but I think I'm missing, going back to my point one, I think I'm missing what we're trying to accomplish or do here. Because if you take into account the other 2 points, then there's no first point. You understand what I'm trying to say?
I don't know what language helps, and I'll leave that to y'all's discretion. But there can just, Mr. Chairman, say two other things. One is things I try to do to encourage this kind of conversation. We have our Scott, we have our third Thursday food truck. Several of you have come to that. Do not monitor those conversations. I don't even keep up with who's talking with who. Had multiple instances where it's best if you talk to a department head or a supervisor about an issue, and I put you together with those people. Just now in your goals for this time, I've actually assigned my people to work directly with you without me being involved. So I need to keep finding ways of demonstrating to people that this isn't going to get you in trouble on its own. Now, if they call you up because they're in trouble, that's a different situation, right? That's different, totally different situation. So I need to take it as a challenge to myself to show, to demonstrate this type of behavior that'll reassure the employees. Because literally, as far as I know, I've never disciplined an employee. So I've got to demonstrate it somehow.
What are they telling you they're scared of loss? Or so where's the fear of what?
All of the above. Higher up.
Yeah.
They find out I'm talking to you, probably gonna
that sounds like the issue is internally, like HR needs a better complaint system, or directors need some kind, like, to me, that seems not us at all. So scared of their own reporting structure that they have nowhere to go but you, then to me, that's an indication that there needs to be a staff adjustment, not that we need more new ones.
Let me just weigh in. Okay. Because if you remember, my first meeting was we changed the rule. 3.5 used to say you could not communicate. Now I want to read the law, and I'm just gonna give you my interpretation. It's 4-9-616. Megan, do you have that? Just read, because that's the basis of this whole thing. Part of what I want to say.
Section 4-9-660, authority of council and its members over county officers and employees. Except for the purposes of inquiries and investigations, the council shall deal with county officers and employees who are subject to the direction and supervision of the county administrator solely through the administrator, and neither the council nor its members shall give orders or instructions to any officers or employees.
Okay, so what this law is basically saying is the county administrator affects change through management. He solely has that authority. Solely. Now, council affects change through policy. There's a line here. On this side is the administrator uses employees to affect change. On this side is us using policy to affect change. That's the whole basis of it. Now, they give 3 examples of where council wrongly would go to his side of the side. They give 3 examples. It says, councils cannot deal with employees. Now, to me, dealing with an employee means you address a situation or a problem an employee brings forward, you provide a solution or an action. That's an administrative role. Somebody comes, Ken has words, he says it to an employee, actions taken, he affects change. We can't do that. So if XYZ employee comes to me and says, I want to take a day off, and I tell him yes, I'm on that side of it. Only he can do that. The next thing is councilors cannot give orders or instructions, which is a direction to act. Just like just what that's his world, his side of the line. Now, that's management. Now, it also recognizes our power. It says, council affects change through policy, and it wants to remind everybody in this law that council retains the ability to inquire and investigate. So on our side of the line, and it's really unclear what inquire and investigate means there, how far it goes. I think at minimum it means that we probably could call in a bunch of employees in a hearing and question them and get answers from them. Because the reason is, and we'll say this in the Attorney General opinion, you can read it, the power to investigate is essential corollary to the power to legislate. So we have that power on our side. Now, what does it mean? I'm not arguing that power is really strong. I'm just saying that it's there. I'm going to say it's like the U.S. Congress. They can call and have hearings.
Committee.
Or whatever. You can do it through a committee. You can do it through as a whole, but you can call those people. So you have these 2 sides. Now, here's my legal argument. Destiny. There's a bunch of other situations that are not in the law, hence they're not prohibited in the law, and therefore I think I'm going to give you 2. There's no wording or phrasing in the law that prohibits counselors from talking to or questioning employees. Now, if there's a law or case law, I'd like to see it. That's not in there. We can't direct them. We can't instruct them. We can't order them. It doesn't say we can't talk to them. Trust me. I think that the intent of the legislature was that they gave three points that saying we're on the other side. They didn't want us to talk to employees. They would have put it in there. It's not in there. It's not their intent. The other thing is there's no wording in there in this law that prohibits employees from reaching out and talking to them. So I think just by the silence of the law, I think those things will be. Now, if any of those things bleed into Let's say I ask an EMS worker, where should we put the next EMS station? That's words, that's the employee. But I'm not directing him to take action, and nor am I asking him to affect change. So I'm not managing him. Those are 4 ingredients to management. Talk to an employee, and tell him to take an action to affect change. That's his side of the line. I'm only doing the first 2, words and talk. That's not management. I'm not on his side of the line. That's my belief. So I believe that you could write a policy that says councilmen could talk to employees and ask questions. I think you could write that. Now, if I ask the same Rodney the question of when are you going to pay, what's my street, Fairway Drive, that's not a problem. If I ask him 5 times, that's bleeding into words. Yeah. It's bleeding words. I talk to an employee, it leads into pushing him for action.
One time, you said,
Well,
you gotta pay.
So, I mean, you gotta watch it. So my point is it could bleed into that, but just asking a question like that one time to me is not management. Management sits within. And that's my take on that. I just think the silence of the law, when the legislature had the opportunity to add in there, you can't deal with situations, you can't give orders, you can't give instructions, and by the way, you can't talk to these people either. They didn't do that. That's my belief.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, our council rules don't say you can't talk to these people. Nowhere in there do these council rules say you cannot talk to people.
They used to,
In
but not.
fact, 3.5C, it's really close to what Megan just read.
Yeah, no, I was part of it.
Very,
I was
very,
big
so
part.
I think where I'm struggling, and then my second point to that, because on the agenda for tonight is full 3.5C. You say it doesn't allow for questioning, or it doesn't, asking questions. So what I would argue, and I am not one of the 2 people in this room that went to law school. I am not, but I would argue that investigation and inquiry could lead you down that path of questioning. Because, Ralph, where does that next EMS station need to be? Where would you put it? What am I doing? I am inquiring. I am questioning. And it is a very, very, very slippery slope. It's like, I understand what you're saying, but I go back to my original statement this time, and it doesn't say you can't talk to them. It really doesn't. And then at the base level of, Ralph, where does the EMS station need to be? No, Ken? Ralph, where does the EMS station need to be? I just undermine my county administrator. And that's something else you don't want to do. You don't want to micromanage. You don't want to undermine.
I'm making a legal argument, and I'm prohibited. I
put human emotion at the end.
Okay.
The first was a clear statement. Questioning is investigation and inquiry. I believe if you look up investigation and inquiry, look up case law investigation and inquiry, questioning will be all through it. Didn't go to law school, but it's what I feel. But to the point of 3.5C, there's nothing in it saying you can't talk to county employees. Or they can't talk to you.
But there's nothing in the law that would forbid us from changing it to say something along the lines that members and county employees are allowed to talk with each other. And then there would be nothing wrong with it.
It's not against the law. It's not against our rules.
But if we want to make it clear as a disclaimer. Like I said, I would like to change the ruling, and I don't know if these guys want to change it too, but I would want to change it to make it clear that it's what you're saying. So that interpretation isn't misconstrued. If I write it literally, that employees and councilmen can talk, that's fine. So, but I want to just make it clear, because we argued this 4 years ago, when I wanted to take out, you cannot talk to employees. There were people arguing the other way that, yeah, there was reason we couldn't. We got to take it out. That's my point. I just want to make it very clear.
I'm hesitant to add language that says you can question employees, because if I'm on staff and a county councilor calls me, that is arguably the highest ranking person. I'm going to drop what I'm doing because that person called me. So if I call up Ralph and say, where should the EMS station go? He is going to feel most likely compelled, oh gosh, the big man has called me to drop whatever it is he's doing and go do a bunch of research on where the EMS station should go and get back to me as soon as possible, under the perception that I am an important person to respond to.
I don't agree with that. Sorry. I can't tell you how many times I had a general walk up to me and ask me a question, what was my opinion of something? You tell them what you think and you move on.
No,
It's not gonna be something
sometimes
where I didn't have to do a whole bunch of research and do all this and that. It was just a 2-minute conversation.
And I think that's fine. Again, we've talked about how it doesn't prohibit that anywhere. We don't need to add it. But if you add language, it is okay to question employees. That could slippery slope be like, I can stop an employee and be like, what'd you do this week? What was on your agenda? How did it get accomplished? I could ask them a ton of questions
No, because
when you get like,
you're asking those questions, you're getting into his arena.
yeah, no, I agree, which is why I don't think we need to put a sentence in there that says it's okay to question employees. But just leave it out like it's left out now. Like you said, it's not forbidden.
Mr. Chairman, I would argue be okay with, if you get on board with, it is okay for county employees to talk to county council members and then continue on with 3.5C as it's written. Be fine with that.
This is how, let me just give you my thought. Change 3.5C, because really, it's not written as strongly as it should be to protect his side of the law. What it should say is members are forbidden from giving orders or instructions to employees, as well as trying to deal with their situation or solve problems employees face. That's basically what the law says. Utilizing employees to effect change of management is solely the function reserved for the county. That's better written in the law, in my opinion. Now, what I would add, members in county employees are allowed to talk with each other as members are elected representatives of all people. Now, here's the point you're going to disagree with. Members can ask employees questions as they gather information to create and improve legislation. And that's the purpose. Now, the question is, how far does it go? Inquiry. Does inquiry just need a formal hearing of all the councilmen? Or is it Alex seeing an EMS worker and saying, you know, where should I put the next EMS station? I'm not arguing that's stretching it that far. I'm just saying the law doesn't prohibit Alex from doing that because it's silent. I would just want to put this in there.
I think we're going down a rabbit hole. I don't know that it's changing the language as it is. What do we need to do to change the perception of an employee thinking they're gonna get in trouble?
This is a start.
And
Is it? I mean,
is,
it is a start, but the root problem is the feeling that won't get in trouble if they find out I talked to you.
Part of it's, let me just tell you, being on the school board for 12 years, you had the same thing in the school district with 6 different superintendents. Some of it was justified and some of it frankly wasn't. Henry Hunt was a person that you could talk to anybody. And those employees would tell you they were afraid to talk to you. They have a perception that they're going to be punished when that perception may not even exist. I can tell you what Henry Hunt didn't exist. He said, Alex, you talk to anybody. People could talk to anyone. And I'm telling you, he truly meant it. Now, there were other ones, other superintendents I wouldn't want to mention. Yeah, these employees had a reason to be. A lot of it's a perception that may not exist. So that's you always have to be careful. So I'm just disagreeing with you a little bit when somebody comes up to you and they say, oh, I'll get in trouble. And I feel like then, why are you going to get in trouble? What happened to you that you're going to go, oh, well, they don't have a reason. So there's that perception, right? He's agreeing with me.
No, he's right, because he's dealt with it.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, getting rid of that perception may be very difficult. But I think this is more in line with the law, frankly, than what the law says. Because the law doesn't fill in all the blanks. It doesn't deal with all the situations. The law doesn't say, yes, you can talk to employees, or no, you can talk to employees. That needs to be in there. And I think under the way I've interpreted the law, and unless they come up with case law that says otherwise, that when you speak to an employee, you're not on the management side, because you're not giving him orders and he's not affecting change.
So, Mr. Chairman, if I could, and let me ask for the purposes of the next couple of minutes, what I want to say, because I feel like I have to say this. Forget who I am. Forget what my role is. I'm just a guy in the room talking. Thank you for letting me talk. If you all passed a rule that gave me a broad swath of power, and I then exercised that power, and a court subsequently said that that exercise of power was not appropriate, I would still be subject to whatever civil wrongs might be out there. People could still sue me for having overstepped state law. Now, I bring that up not in a way to chill, but just I feel compelled to say the converse is true. If you all decide to start acting in a way that you might think is a gray area, this is the concept of moral hazard, right? That controls us all. None of us want to get in trouble. If you start acting in a way that's beyond what state law provides, a subsequent court might say, well, you've opened yourself up to civil liability for that. I don't say that to impact how you want to word your own rules. But I do think this, Mr. Lang, this is exactly what you're talking about. This is the check you need to have in mind when you're having these conversations. If, for example, they raise an HR issue or they raise a management issue, and then you weigh in on it. Well, what I think you should do is X or Y. You know, this is what I think you should do, employee X or Y. You give them that advice, and your advice is not right. You have opened yourself up for liability. Well, that's what I'm saying. I just want to say that out loud because that's the check. That's the check that we both exist in. Is that so? For my own part, I would not want to come and ask y'all for authority in the gray area of state law. I would not want to say like, y'all give me the authority to spend money on whatever I want because state law doesn't say. And so I just feel compelled to say that out loud. Now, having said that, I want to go back in my role as a county administrator and say, I want to do what y'all want. Okay, that's my other goal.
And I appreciate, your honesty there and what you said. I mean, to me, it's obvious. I don't think any of us up here are going to get into an HR related problem. I think every single one of us sitting here, if we're smart enough, maybe that might not be the right way to say it, right? Be able to be elected to this position, I think we're smart enough to know that we can't do that, right? As good of an intention that we may have in answering the question, we can't. Period. Right. And I'm and I definitely do not want to open that can of worms. Right. Ralph and I have had that conversation before too. That's not the purpose of what I would like to accomplish here. What I'm trying to accomplish is just getting back to where the employees of the county know they can talk, they can come talk to their councilman at any time for any reason. When I say for any reason, then the limit what the state law says. We have to be cognizant once they start going there. No, I'm sorry, I can't talk about this. You need to follow your chain of command. Policy is in the handbook. Never was written in the handbook.
Yeah, the way you're articulating it sounds right.
I actually disagree with that. Let me tell you why. If an employee comes to you and he's just talking, realize he's in the management side.
Right.
Right? Now he's protected on the management side. You got to stay out of this. So if an employee comes and starts talking to you, as long as you don't give him an action to do something, affect change, you're not acting as a manager. So you listen to him. He may tell you in the last sentence, my boss just sold $50,000. You want to hear it. So my point is, my biggest issue with employees, I always listen to them when they come forward, but I never give them an action, and I never give them, something to affect you. Well, you go do this and do that. I mean, that's where you run into problems. That's where you run into his thing. But just to listen, even if it's a personnel issue, I'll say, I'll listen to it, and I'll say, you need to go talk to your chain of command.
Right.
So
I think that's what I said.
Well, you were saying, no, I'm going to stop. The talking, I think, I think the talking is not restricted. It's the acting to affect change that's restricted.
To me, it seems like the problem that y'all brought up, which is fear and concern among employees coming to talk to us, seems to be more of the issue than us understanding how we talk.
Yes.
So it's about, so to me, we are redoing the employee handbook. It's already been a project to the administration. What if the solution to this doesn't come out of council rules, but instead is part of the employee handbook? Says you are allowed to talk to your council members. You should know that they don't have these powers, but obviously they're your representative. You can go to them. But also, here are Pickens County's complaint levels. I mean, like this usually comes from HR. Like if you are not comfortable going to this level of management, then you go to this level. You can't solve it in these ways. Here's the other person. Like most large organizations have a complaint hierarchy. And I know we have a committee at the end of it, a grievance committee that can hear it. So if the employees are told in their handbook, yes, you can talk to council members, but just know that they can't give you them answers. And instead, when you have a true issue, here is your hierarchy, and here's how you protect it along the way of that hierarchy. I mean, that solves the fear issue more than.
Let me tell you why I disagree with that. You're on his side of the line. The employee handbook is a tool of his. We are not supposed to get into that employee handbook. That's why, like, when I, what's that?
We make
ours.
We create?
Yeah,
That's.
Yeah, we'll bring it to y'all and y'all pass it on a resolution.
Okay, then I'm, okay, so the employee handbook is not written by you?
It is, but y'all have to y'all have to approve it
Okay.
because it's a policy document. Just like all it's a policy. You know what I
Okay,
mean?
then I stand corrected. You're right.
But what I was gonna say in response to that is, I think I'm gonna do this either way.
Yeah.
I think I'll bring it to you either way. Because I think the county employees, if they get disciplined, right? Then they could say like, well, no way, it says right here I can do that thing.
yes.
And that's gonna be a grievance. And that's gonna open me and my staff up to repercussions. So I think there might be some language that we can put in there to help with this cultural problem that y'all are identifying. And so I think that might be an avenue we can explore either way. And not council rules, that's your rules. But we need to worry, and I take seriously this idea that, and I think it's with frontline employees. I'm just being frank about how I feel. Frontline employees are where you may have the problem. The managers know, like, oh, I need to tell my boss. You know, it's the Joe Blow guy, I hate to bring up recycling centers, but the recycling center, that need to know they can talk to you. And so
It goes up the ladder.
does it? Yeah. But so we need some language in the handbook, and I think we can work on it.
With protections.
Yeah.
I would think something to all rules too. How do you feel? Your goal?
Well, I mean, I don't have a problem with putting something in the employee handbook. I mean, I'm willing to talk about our rules some more. Do you think that putting something in the employee handbook may help, can be helpful? Then the other side of that is there's written policy and then there's understood policy. The understood policy needs to follow written. Get my meaning? Yes, you can talk to written policy. You can talk to your council. But understood policy is you better not talk to your council representative. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I get it. And I think also part of that is reinforcement through the chain of command. You have a letter that you put out every Monday, is it? I think, or once a month or something like that.
Yeah, we do a quarterly newsletter to employees. The letter y'all get from us, it's not really a letter, but the thing you get from me is a result of me and my senior leaders talking, and it's just the notes. Like it doesn't go to anybody but y'all.
Yeah.
So there's different communication out.
Yeah, but I mean, you can, every so often reiterate that with your senior leaders. Hey, push down. This is the policy, this is okay. To make sure that they, and the more it gets pushed down that way through leadership, I think the better chance of something positive chasing away that reluctance here that is current.
What do you think, Mr. Holloway? What do you thought?
No, I think if we could look at some language that would dissipate some of that mentality that's going on, it would be a great thing. And so I think that would probably be a good place to start.
I think we're supposed to be back with the employee handbook in December 1st.
Okay, so hold on a second. So the employee handbook, if we wanted to rewrite it,
No.
I mean,
Well,
is it
it's jump
is it
faster
that?
than that.
Is it a
We told them at the meeting a couple months ago.
I'm ready to
We
be
did.
the
No,
council.
but the point is, does the council approve the employee
Yes,
handbook?
it's a policy, it's a policy.
Council approves policy.
I don't have the right.
Chairman,
So what
I could, I just want to clarify, one of my favorite things to do is somebody says, it's county policy. I'm like, that is really cool. Show me where it's at. Well, it came out in memo 42-9, whatever. Well, that's a memo. That's not a policy.
That's procedure.
Procedure, exactly.
That's exactly right. And then I'll call Mr. Roper and say, it's your job to enforce the policies. It's council's job to create those policies.
Okay.
And that's the checks and balance system. And it's also the checks and balance system that I'm really truthfully just arguing to try my best to protect, because those checks and balances are present. But if we don't realize they're present, then we got a problem. So that book is on 100%, because it is the policy statement of this council to the employees of the county.
We'll be making motions to change.
This basically, it's an
I
act.
thought it was just a batch tool. Okay.
No, it's policy. I mean, that's why we haven't changed it in 9 years. Last time council changed the policy for employees, 2016.
Okay.
And it was
So
to
we've had-
allow for retirement, the retirement, if something to do with retirement, the time that it changed before that was allowing for something else to do with retirement. 2009.
So how do we feel about changing rule 3.5? I support changing it. Anybody else? No?
I don't know that changing the language is gonna change the problem. I think the root of the problem needs to be.
How about you two?
Agree with that.
So you don't want to change 3.5?
Chris, I didn't hear what you said. Say it.
But I don't think changing the language is gonna fix the problem. I think we need to get to the root of the problem and that'll fix the problem.
Okay.
I don't think changing the language is gonna make any difference.
Okay, so I'm gonna make, I'm gonna make a
in our
motion, I'm gonna make a motion to create a committee of Dale and Scott, just to work with Destiny to change 3.5. We'll see right now. That's my motion. I have some for December 1st proposal. Your second on that?
I'll say it.
Okay. Okay, so what I'm doing is basically say, so, Council Lang and Holloway, work with Destiny to create a proposal to change 3.5. We'll find out right. I have a second, any other discussion? Okay, those in favor, raise your right hand. Those opposed, same sign. 3.5 is okay. All right, so Scott, you, I think it's one of your goals to work on the handbook. You want to be, is it okay that Scott works with them on that wording?
And I have been already, and it's answered.
Okay. All right, any other thoughts on that?
One question, is there any other language in the handbook that's been problematic that we may need to look at?
I've got a draft of what we were gonna bring to y'all on December 1st. And I'll look back through it with this in mind, this conversation in mind, because I think there might be an avenue here to help the culture, which is what you're doing.
December 1st is our public meeting. We're gonna be doing a discussion.
supposed to receive a presentation from HR.
Presentation, okay.
So it may just be a one-sided presentation. We can all look at it.
Okay, I guess we'll get a draft before December 1st now. Okay. Any other discussion on this? I'm gonna make a motion to adjourn. Do I hear a second? That passes unanimously.